two questions are very similar, or these two questions, these are UPSC questions. See, I'll tell you this. This is a UPSC question, and this is a people ask me how to write this quote-based question. So this is a quote kind of, see, ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. So if you think about it, I say this is GS paper 4 question. This is GS paper 2 question. Okay. So if you look at it, the right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to the Indian citizens, but these rights are not absolute. Comment. So how do you write this comment kind of question also? We will look at it right now. Observe how we are writing. So first I will write, for example, the ethics question. So you look at this ethics question, ethics quotes based question. So people think that quotes based philosophical question should be addressed philosophically. No, it should not be addressed that way, because see, look at this, how we have to write means it's a 10-mark question. So it is 2 pages. So you should be thinking about how do you write and justify and illustrate these points. You should not think about the philosophical thought of that thinker. Rather, you should think what does the question mean in terms of your syllabus. If you look at it in terms of your syllabus, this says that what ethics. So first thing is ethics. First, you should write what is the meaning of ethics. The meaning of ethics is an understanding or a study of what is right, difference between what is right and wrong. Okay. And you can also talk about it is derived from ethos. The word ethos, it is derived. It means the behavior, custom, or how you behave. So this will be the definition part. So this is the first part that you should write for this question. But the next part is talking about, see, look at this. They are saying that it is knowing what you have the right to do and what is right to do. If you think about it, I will start with one by one. And I will use, for example, Article 19. Article 19 I will use. Why? Because the above question which I suggested, the question on right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to the citizens, but these rights are not absolute. I will actually overlap these two questions, because people imagine this this answer writing or this UPSC question paper as very different, or GS paper question paper very different from the other papers, but it is overlapping. So now you look at it with the help of Article 19 GS paper 2, we can write this answer, because what is right to do? See, here you look at it, there is a ethics is a difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. So for example, first I will talk about freedom of speech and expression. Okay, what? Freedom of speech and expression. This is Article 19 clause 1. So if you have this, or class 1 or A, class A, so you have the right to speak, or you have the right to freedom of speech and expression, but it is not absolute. Okay, it is not absolute. It is actually, if you think about it, you have a certain reasonable restriction. So what you have the right to do is speech, but what is the right thing to do? Right thing to do is talk with the reasonable restriction. That is, right thing to do is not incite violence. Correct? Not incite violence, not defame somebody. Not defame somebody, not creating problems in the country's security. Exactly, not hate speech. You have the right, see, understand this question very clearly. You have the right to do something. That does not mean that, or you have the right to do something. But what is ethics now? It is the right thing to do. So there is a difference. But you think about Article 19. The answer will come. So this is freedom of speech and expression. That is the point. So you have this freedom of speech and expression. You can do whatever you want or speak whatever you want, unless and otherwise it is not an hate speech. It should be about love and tolerance, right? So what is the right thing to do now? Should be love and tolerance. This is what is the meaning of this question. Next point, not only this point, I will take the next clause from Article 19. Next clause from Article 19, if you think about it, freedom of association or freedom of assembly. Yeah, freedom of assembly. In that whole, see, in that whole thing itself, in that, for example, in that freedom of assembly without arms, they would have given. But you write it. See, we have in India, you have the right to assemble. And we have the right to protest. Correct? So there are so many protests in India which happen. But the right, what will be the right thing to do? The right thing to, your right is correct, but the right thing to do will be to assemble without arms and not cause public disorder. Not. This is very important. And not cause public disorder is what is the meaning of this right. So that is what is ethics. Knowing the difference between you can right to assemble and also the right to have a public order while you are protesting or assembling. The next question, sorry, next point. Now you look at the next point, third point. So I will use for third point, I will use this question. See, look at this. Right of move. What is this question? Right of movement and residence in the territory of India is freely available, but it is not absolute. This is the statement for, or this is the answer for this question. These two questions are interrelated. Now you look at the third point. Now you look at the third point. You have the what? You have the right to, you have the right to freedom of movement and residence. Correct? You have the right enshrined in the constitution as a fundamental right. Correct? But what is ethics? Ethics is you knowing that you should not enter a scheduled tribe area in Andaman and Nicobar. Why? Because scheduled tribes in Andaman and Nicobar, who are they? See, there are 7. In that you can write Sentinelese, Om, exactly, Sentinelese, Om, Jaravas. Do not disturb the tribal people in if you look at it, see, you should not say that they are also they are part of India. But Anna, they are also, if you think, they are vulnerable to the diseases that we carry. So there is a reasonable restriction in constitution itself. And their inner line permit, as correctly said, inner line permit is there. So you can move, but there is a fundamental duty, or not fundamental duty. There is a right thing to do. So that is what is the difference between you having a right and right to do. Next point, you look at this. Next article I'll take. So this question, look at this, how many points I have written. So this quote-based question. How do you write a quote-based question? You should not write philosophical thoughts. Rather, if you look at it, this is GS paper 2. This is not a quote. You get this point? This question in GS paper 4 is not a quote based. So I should not think about what Potter Stewart is saying. I should think about how do I justify this question. I will use, see, you can use many other methods. I will tell you the other points as well. But I am using article 19 because the above question overlaps with that. GS paper 2, you would have written this paper one day before. You will be writing GS paper 2 one day before, maybe in Saturday. Sunday, you will be writing GS paper 4, correct? So you can use the points which you wrote in GS paper 2. Now you come to this question. So after this, freedom of right to movement, and you can have right of profession. Correct? Right of profession, trade, there is so many things. But what, see, you have right to profess, or sorry, right to profession of many things. But what is that you have the, or what is the meaning of ethics is that you treating your employees properly. Now only we discussed gig employees. Gig employees, the great resignation, eligible, see, that is a, very good. There should be eligible qualification. But now only we spoke about many things about civil services reform. So treating your employees properly. Correct? The discussion, the great resignation discussion, which we spoke about right now, talks about treating employees properly, proper work culture. This is what the right thing to do. So right, you are right, you have to, you can have whichever organization you want, but the right thing to do. Next, one more, see, after, so along with this article, there are also articles which are integrated into this. For example, in Article 19, freedom of speech and expression, there is something called as movies. Correct? That is the film certification, or the films that anyone makes comes under the article, that is freedom of speech and expression. Along with it only they are making. But everybody has the right to make movies. True. But Anand, those movies, if you think about it, what will be the right thing to do? You can generate movies and you can generate money. True. But the right kind of movies would be movies which with values, with gender justice. So most of the movies, if you think about it, are very harmful in terms of the values they imbibe into the society. It is a right. See, everybody has the right to make whatever movie they want. But what is the right thing to do? That is what is called as ethics. Now you understand? So this is the question. So if you look at this question, now look at this question. This is the question they have asked, quote-based question. You can write many other points. Okay, you can write so many other points that from the constitution itself you can derive. You can write the right to band, whichever. See, the point is that right to band. Let us assume that you are writing a point on right to band. Correct, you have the right to band, but without causing disharmony in the society and without disrupting the supplies of essential. And one more, see, one more in terms of corona. So look at this. See, you that is why reading newspaper will be very, very essential, because I'll tell you now why I keep insisting on reading newspaper is that this is a UPSC question. I am not taking questions from anywhere. UPSC question answering while reading newspaper, you will know that, for example, corona. Correct? You can include Article 19 itself. See, you have the freedom of movement. You have the freedom of movement. But when during the corona, you have to be in the house. You get this point? Why? For basic human health. So for everyone to be properly, so you can say that I do not have corona. Why should I be sitting inside the house? Means it should be for the prevention of spread of corona. So that is the point. And many other points. See, that is the point. Many other things you can, any other points you think about, you can talk about that also. Employee satisfaction, or treating, for example, treating elders with respect, or treating the children with respect, and many other things you can talk about when you are talking about what is the right to do and the right thing to do. And that now you get this difference of how do you write this question on what is that quote based question. Chariya, quote based question. And you can see consumerism. One more point I'll say. So many points you can write. Consumerism. See, you have the right to buy articles. Correct? You have the right to buy articles. For example, you have the right to buy diamonds. Okay? You have the right to buy diamonds. You have the right to do whatever you want in the economy. But those diamonds should not be a diamond which are mined in the mines where children are employed. Or you should not buy articles which destroy the environment. So you are going to a shop. You are going to a shop and you are buying something, and the shop owner gives you a plastic bag. You should say no to the plastic bag, right? So that is the right thing to do. See, in some states, the ban on plastic has been established. In Tamil Nadu, ban on plastic is there. But let us assume that a place where you go, you have the right because you are shopping. So you have to take the bag. True. But the right thing to do will be not to take plastic bags. And that will be the point you should talk about. See, how many points have got? 10-mark question. Actually, we have written, okay, so for 15 marks we have done. But for a 10-mark question, this is how you write. Next question shall we discuss? In the sense, right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to the Indian citizens, but these rights are not absolute. Now, that above question, conclusion is the same. See, conclusion is you doing the right thing will always be a better thing than the rights which you have, or the duties as humans to do the right thing will be the greatest thing over the rights that we possess. See, conclusion and all, do not fear. See, this whole concept about having conclusions like this. Conclusion is something which you derive out of your answers. The answers that you write, you have to derive conclusions. Conclusions are not separate parts of the answers. They have made it a separate part in this test batches. They have said the conclusion is you need conclusions like this, you need conclusions like that. Conclusion is basic ending of what you have written. In this, if you think about it, these points are necessary. The points that you write are the necessary ingredient of an answer. Conclusion is the way forward. You give it as a conclusion of all the things that you have written, and that will be the point. Now you come to this right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to the Indian citizens, but these rights are not absolute. Comment, how do you write this? Now this is what is the challenge. So people keep asking, how do you write a question on comment? How do you write the question on illustrate, evaluate? And if you look at it, it is a very simple thing. And one by one we will look at it. But today we will look at it comment, because the question asks for comment, right? So what is that question? I'll again see. I have to refer the question, and only then it will be proper. Right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to the Indian citizens, but these rights are not absolute. Exactly. So then you start with this definition. So you can start with this definition. What is this definition? Now, Article 19. Article 19. You are so the part 3. Okay, part 3 fundamental rights gives every citizen of India the right to movement and residence in any part of India. So this is the definition. And now what we have to do, this is a right you have, but it is not absolute. You have to comment. Comment means first you have to tell about the right. For example, right to freedom, right to movement. I'll tell you how. Right to movement and residence. So this right has been, you are commenting. Why this right has been given? You think about it. It is a right to movement you have been given, for example, jobs. So you can see, you will be in one job. Let us see, I'll draw one diagram here. So I'll draw one diagram here. For example, people from here, Chennai to Gurugram, they to and fro. So there is an HCL. See, this example I take from, so see, you can take your example, but I am taking one example. How do you incorporate diagram in the answer? So in this question, for example, I know my friends. So for example, my college friends, so they will be working in Gurugram HCL, and they will be working in Chennai HCL. So they will be transferring from here to there. So freedom of right to movement, that gives you the right to move for jobs. That gives you right to move for marriage. Correct? You can go from residence. I'll tell you. See, that question we'll the incorporation of the next that we'll discuss one by one. Okay. Now this question. How do you write? You check it. We'll discuss that question. But marriage, if you look at it, for marriage we move, and for religion we move. Religion we move, right? So you can, for example, be a person in Tamil Nadu, but you can go for so see, from North India you can come to Rameshwaram. From South India you can go to Kashi, Vishwanath. See, all these Amarnath Yatra. So you have to talk about these things, and you say that we have this right to. And also fourth, you have the right to buy land. And job, and fifth point, if you see article 16 gives you this concept of jobs in state. So anyone from India can get residence in or domiciled in one place, and they can move freely, you know. So this is for what and all, right to freedom of movement and residence, and it also gives a national integration. This is comment. Okay, what is the meaning of comment question? So now you write this one part. Now you tell that you have started moving all along this country, and you have been given this right. The next part, it is not an absolute right, not absolute. It is not absolute, means the points now only we discussed. There is something called as in Andaman Nicobar. There are 7 tribes. In the tribes, certain tribes are vulnerable to the diseases, and hence you have to prohibit. Okay. And also next, there is 6th and 5th schedule. You cannot buy lands. See, you cannot buy lands. Exactly. Very good. That point is correct. You cannot buy lands. There is also section 144. Okay, when there is section 144 for protection of communal harmony, or for protection of peace, you cannot say I have freedom of right to movement. So this is what is comment. So how would you conclude? You would conclude saying that any right as given to human beings is not absolute. It cannot be absolute. It has to be a balance between the right and duty, and conclude. So this will be the answer. Now look at these both answers. This is how you write a GS answer in civil services examination. It should be like framework based. It should be with content, and these contents should not be philosophical content. This content should be precise content that you read from your GS papers. I hope we made this clear.